7.9 and Kello.com.
Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Great to have you along this morning. Fears of recession really is the big story this morning. So we'll dive into it. We're underway. Let's get going.
Common sense, no prescription required.
I love the show.
I don't hate going to work anymore.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
This is the Greg Belfrage.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. And unfortunately, there are a lot of fears about recession. This is the big story this morning. A lot of what we're seeing over the weekend, CBS News saying, stocks were routed in Asia, tumble in Europe as markets fear U.S. recession. The Japan's Nikkei plunged also today. So just a number of NBC, U.S. recession fears spark sell-off. So, and we're seeing that this morning. The Nikkei down about 13%. So European markets opening lower today, trading down about 2.5%. The Nikkei closing about 13% lower. NASDAQ futures down 5%. And what this means for you and me then is that there are a lot of fears of recession here. And I think if you've been at the grocery store and you've been buying goods and services, you have, I think, been aware of what's going on. So stock markets tumbling. These are stories that have come out within the last few hours. So stock markets tumbling today. Japanese shares at one point exceeding their 1987 Black Monday loss as fears of a U.S. recession sent investors fleeing. That's from Reuters. And again, CBS News, Japan's benchmark Nikkei 225 stock index plunged 2.4% today. The latest bout of sell-offs that are shaking world markets as investors fret over the state of the U.S. economy. And same thing over at NBC. U.S. stocks are on course to open in the red Monday. Japanese stocks suffering their worst day of trading since the 1980s. So that really is the big story this morning, what's going on with the markets. And the question then that many of us are asking, is the U.S. headed for a recession? Also, other big news this morning, Secretary of State Antony Blinken told his counterparts from the G7 countries yesterday that an attack by Iran and Hezbollah against Israel could start as early as today. This was a call, and people who were on the call were briefed on the call, are talking to Axios. Axios has got the story this morning that Blinken convened the conference call to coordinate. This was with U.S. allies trying to coordinate and also trying to generate last-minute diplomatic pressure on Iran and Hezbollah to minimize their retaliation against Israel. So they have, and this was a big story going into the weekend, certainly was a big story late last week, that Iran and Hezbollah had promised to respond to the assassinations of the one of the leaders of Hamas, as well as a military commander then in Hezbollah. And Blinken stressed that the U.S. believes Iran and Hezbollah will both retaliate. And he says it's unclear what form the retaliation will take. So we don't know how they're going to retaliate, just that they will. He's warning U.S. allies. Blinken said the U.S. doesn't know the exact timing of the attacks, stressed it could start as early as the next 24 to 48 hours, meaning then today. That could begin as early as today. So those are big stories this morning. Also, as we get into some of let's go to the Sunday shows, the Sunday news shows, because you had Nancy Pelosi praising President Biden for not running for a re-election and suggested he was worthy of placing him on Mount Rushmore. So she talked about it, and she denied leading any charge to oust Biden, and instead remarked how Biden was at the top of his game before making his decision to leave the race. I've got news for Nancy Pelosi. Somebody at the top of their game doesn't make a decision to leave the race. What? Wow. I mean, the absolute gaslighting that's just going on here is incredible. So now about putting him on Mount Rushmore. And even Leslie Stahl pushed back on that idea a little bit. But Pelosi said he was in a good place to make whatever decision, the top of his game. Such a consequential president of the United States, a Mount Rushmore kind of president of the United States. Seriously, I'm amazed she could get through that sentence without breaking down in laughter. So then Stahl said, this Leslie Stahl, are you really saying he belongs up on Mount Rushmore, Lincoln and Joe Biden? Well, you got Teddy Roosevelt up there, and he's wonderful. I don't say take him down, but you can add Biden. And then she reemphasized that she was not part of the pressure to get Biden to leave the race. And she said, no, I wasn't the leader of any pressure. Let me say things that I didn't do. I didn't call one person. I did not call one person. I could always say to him, I never called anybody, she said. So she apparently was not part of not part of the effort to try to get the president to stop his re-election campaign, and thinks he belongs on Mount Rushmore. This is just getting tiresome. The number of these. I mean, seriously, can we let history make that decision, please? You know what? Because things are kind of hot at the moment. I think, regardless of how you feel, one way or the other, can we just let history make that decision as to whether Joe Biden belongs on Mount Rushmore? I'm having a lot of thoughts that I don't think I want to share. But also, and here's Newsweek's. MAGA, Make America Great Again. MAGA rages at proposal to put Joe Biden on Mount Rushmore. And so a lot of reaction to this. And Governor Kristi Noem, I think, said something about it on social media. Yeah, she wrote on X. Sorry, Nancy. Mount Rushmore is not a place to celebrate someone who lied about his mental decline, willfully and knowingly endangered the lives of the American people, crushed American families, undermined the Constitution, and weakened our country at home and abroad. So there were a number of others who, Roger Stone, who's an ally of Donald Trump, said, somebody is drunk again. So some of the reactions then. Now, also on the Sunday shows, we had Representative Byron Donalds of Florida, who was on This Week on ABC with host George Stephanopoulos. And Donald's during the interview said this, the Donald Trump's remarks about Kamala Harris at this and her racial identity last week, that boy, the media is just working overtime to try to keep that thing alive. They are, and this was on a number of the Sunday shows yesterday. They are really working overtime to make that a big story. And Donald said, it's a phony controversy, he said. Many mainstream media outlets had previously referred to Harris as the first Indian American U.S. Senator. And he said, it doesn't really matter. The president mentioned it. What he also talks about far more frequently is the fact that Kamala Harris is the person who created this massive inflation, which is destroying Black families, white families, Hispanic families. It's her failure as borders are that has left our southern border wide open. More than 10 million illegal immigrants coming into our country, record fentanyl coming into our country, which has killed more Americans than at any other point in the history of our country, he said. Specifically now, speaking about fentanyl. And Stephanopoulos then accused Donalds of having just repeated the slur again. And he said, well, George, first of all, this is something that's actually having a conversation throughout social media right now. There were a lot of people who are trying to figure this out. But again, that's a side issue, not the main issue. And then Stephanopoulos, you just did it. You just did it again. Why do you insist on questioning her racial identity? And Donald's, again, I just shared a good part of his answer there, talking about, Trump was talking about this and this and this and this. And he was saying out of that time that he spent a few moments that Donald Trump spent talking about it. And then he went on to other things, and it's those few moments that the media just wants to, just will not let go of. And he really went after George Stephanopoulos in regard to this. But I do think there's a lesson here about, I even thought this last week, and I know I disagree with some, I think Donald Trump has really got to be focused, extremely focused on what he's saying and keep hitting the same thing over and over. Was it Frank Luntz I saw? He's saying that Donald Trump could win if Donald Trump just continues to focus on what did Kamala Harris do as vice president? Name one thing Kamala Harris did during the time she was vice president, and just repeat that over and over and over. That's according to Luntz. Other big stories this morning, Justice Neil Gorsuch responding to the president's proposals to reform the Supreme Court. This was on Fox News Sunday. And Gorsuch was asked by Shannon Bream about this. And the justice said, you're not going to be surprised that I'm not going to get into what is now a political issue during a presidential election year. I don't think that would be helpful, he said. And then he said, he talked about an independent judiciary. That means that when you're unpopular, you can get a fair hearing under the law and the Constitution. And he defended the Supreme Court in its current state. And he said, that they are for the moments when the spotlight's on you, when the government's coming after you. And don't you want a ferociously independent judge and a jury of your peers to make those decisions? And so I just say, be careful. So these comments by Justice Gorsuch are also big news this morning. James Carville, who is a Democrat strategist, says that Kamala Harris should accept a Fox News invitation to debate Donald Trump next month. It's looking more and more likely that the two of them will not debate. But Carville said that this was on a weekend episode of Politicon. He said Trump is scared to debate a girl. And I don't know what prism he's looking at Trump through, but you ever seen Donald Trump frightened of anybody? But he said, Carville did, I hope somebody in the vice president campaign is listening. I think we should accept the Fox debate. And I think the debate should take place on the night of September 18th in New York City. And I think we should be gracious to former President Trump. So tell Fox, you'll be glad you'll show up in Manhattan. They've got a studio there. I've seen it before. We'll have the debate on Fox on the night of September 18th. That's what we should do, Carville says. Meanwhile, there is a piece this morning at The Hill. This is one of the top stories at thehill.com this morning, that there are those who are trying to encourage Mike Pence to endorse Kamala Harris. And this is a former national security advisor to Pence. And she yesterday called on her former boss to endorse Kamala Harris. That story is trending. I'm like, man, what is going on? There are a couple of stories that really caught my eye this morning about the hyper-politicization of the American family. This is a piece from Axios. It's a growing chorus of conservative, but now this is left-wing Axios, so keep that in mind. But a growing chorus of conservative pundits, influencers, and politicians are promoting a specific traditional image of family life and criticizing people who don't live that way. Oh, okay, yes. Do you have a growing number of people who are criticizing a very conservative way of life? Yes, absolutely. Criticizing those who don't live that way? Oh, oh, please. Oh, please. But this is now, that's over at Axios. And they're trying to make a big deal out of comments that J.D. Vance had made about childless cat ladies. That comments that Vance had made. So again, you take a portion of that and then you beat the absolute hell out of it in the media and you spin it to the point where people don't know what the actual truth is or what was actually said. That's what the media is engaged in. There's a piece also over at Fox News about a growing number of younger adults in the U.S. that say they don't want to have kids. They're very unlikely to have kids, according to surveys. And the primary reason, they just don't want to. They don't want to have kids. So according to the Pew Research Center, adults under 50 who say they are unlikely to ever have kids climbed 10 percentage points between 2018 and 2023. So in the span of just a few years, you have a growing number of people who say they never want to have kids. They will focus on careers or their other interests. That's the second most popular reason. But again, you've got a growing number of people as to why they're not having kids. They just don't want to. Also, what is this with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. admitting to leaving a dead bear in Central Park? This story is actually trending this morning. We'll run down all the trending stories, but Robert F. Kennedy said yesterday, yes, he was the person who dumped a dead bear in New York City's Central Park about 10 years ago. And he wanted to clarify the story before the New Yorker released a bad story about him. So he apparently is trying to get out in front of this thing, but he dumped a bear. So in a video that he posted yesterday, he's in a kitchen with actress Roseanne Barr. Said he was driving through the Hudson Valley on his way to go falconing when he watched a woman hit and kill a young bear. I pulled over and I picked up the bear and I put him in the back of my van because I was going to skin the bear. It was in very good condition. And I was going to put the meat in my fridge. But for one thing led to another, and then he didn't have time to drop the bear off at his home, and so he dumped it in the park. What? It's just insane. And he's out there and he's sharing that story, and he wanted to get out in front of it before the media shared that news about it. And if his campaign's not dead yet, I think his campaign maybe is a bit like that dead bear that he dumped in the park. I don't know. It's just crazy. 627, great to have you along this morning. Cloudy skies, 72. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
It's 528. Kello, News Talk 13.
Man, I look at the headlines each morning and it's like, what? Dumping a dead bear. The story is trending and he wants to get out in front of the story. And it's like, why wouldn't you just have called the authorities? A woman hit the bear, call authorities, have the bear removed. You saw it as a grocery shopping opportunity. I mean, that's just bizarre. Can they add that to the reasons why would not be voting for him? Okay, let's see what's going on in the newsroom this morning. Man, I had a great weekend, but it went incredibly fast. It's like bam, bam, bam.
In writing and in a specific contract. For free, no obligation consultation. Please call 855-551-7066 or go to LoneStarTransfer.com.
Stop what you're doing and listen to this. Your God-given freedoms are up for the taking, and those doing the taking are the same people who've sworn to defend your freedom. They think they can control the media, hide the truth, and force their delusions onto your family. What they can't take away? Self-reliance, peace of mind. Got water filtration? You should. A charged solar generator? You better. Emergency food on your shelf? Get it now from My Patriot Supply. My Patriot Supply is the most trusted name in survival, and for damn good reason, too. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com right now and save $200 on their best-selling 3-month emergency food kit. It delivers over 2,000 calories per day, plus sealed inside, practically unpierceable packaging. It lasts up to 25 years. Oh, and did I mention it's delicious? Go to MyPatriotSupply.com and save $200 per kit. Includes fast and free shipping.
6:30, cloudy and 72 at Kello. Joe Bowman's in the Kello.com News Center. Sturgis motorcycle rally is in full swing. So Joe will have details on the rally coming up, generating a lot of news. That's on the way.
Landfall in Florida. Hurricane Debbie will continue to bring heavy rain, life-threatening storm surge, strong winds, and the risk for tornadoes from Florida to the southeast. Once Debbie moves across Florida, it is expected to stall for days over parts of Georgia and the Carolinas. The potential of historic rainfall, with amounts exceeding over 2 feet of rain, is going to be catastrophic for some areas.
Fox meteorologist Janice Dean. President Biden meets with his national security team today about Iran's expected attack against Israel.
Israel is bracing for possible retaliatory attacks by Iran and its proxies after top Hamas and Hezbollah leaders were assassinated last week. Their deaths are stoking fears of a wider regional war. U.S. officials believe the attacks could happen in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Fox's Ashley Strohmeyer. America's listening to Fox News.
Kello News Time 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. Over the weekend, authorities had their hands full in Sturgis. 2 crashes and over 150 citations were issued. That was just on Saturday of the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. No injuries reported with those 2 crashes. A total of 154 citations were issued for things like fighting, trespassing, and possessing drug paraphernalia. A total of 30 DUI arrests were also made. The Sturgis Motorcycle Rally continues all this week and wraps up on Sunday. Due to major equipment failure at the city's water treatment plant on Sunday, the city of Brandon is asking its residents to restrict water usage. Crews are still working on the problem. Brandon officials also say no lawn watering until further notice. The Sioux Falls Police Department new recruiting campaign appears to be paying off. The department says they're seeing a higher number of applicants than they have in the last 2 years. The SFPD launched the new campaign last month. Now is the time to let your voice be heard. Voting for the People's Choice Award for the Sioux Falls Sculpture Walk in Sioux Falls is now open. You can vote on the Sculpture Walk website or pick up a brochure at any of the Sculpture Walk boxes downtown, complete the ballot, and place it back in one of those boxes. Board member Jim Mathis says there's also a new feature to add to the experience.
We also added an audio tour, which is new to us this year, and you can hear, in most cases, from the artists actually telling you what their inspiration was and how they made the piece and how it came to be here in Sioux Falls.
There are 80 sculptures this year, so plan plenty of time to complete the tour. And the Sioux Falls Canaries look to close out their 7-game road trip later today. Yesterday, Jabari Henry belted a 3-run homer in the 4th, putting the Birds ahead of Winnipeg for the rest of the game to secure a win 6-5. The Canaries close out their 4-game series with the Goldeyes this afternoon. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Weather brought to you by Intech Cleaning and Restoration. If you need it clean, call the Intech team. IntechClean.com.
Good morning. We're tracking a few scattered showers and thunder showers rolling across the region this morning. Otherwise, partly cloudy for the afternoon. We'll try to heat up to 88 in Sioux Falls. Southeast winds at 10 to 20. For tonight, turning partly cloudy, lows back in the upper 50s, and then tomorrow, our high in the upper 70s. From the Storm Center at Kindleland TV, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens.
The only thing that is constant is change. So check back all day long. Kello News Talk 1320, 107.9, and Kello.com.
Every major business in the world is racing to incorporate some form of artificial intelligence into its operations. But if you had to make a guess as to who's making the most money in AI, who would it be? I'm Kim Commando for Dell. For today's best deals on computers and office hardware, visit Dell.com/deals. During the 1849 California gold rush, the only ones guaranteed to make money were the merchants selling the equipment to pan for gold. It happened again with the 1896 Alaska Klondike gold rush, and again in 2010 when everyone was mining crypto at home. But the people who make the most money sell the equipment to the miners. Today, it's the cloud infrastructure market, giant data centers, billions of servers, untold miles of fiber lines. In all, the world spent $79 billion for AI infrastructure in the last 3 months alone. Look, no one knows really how to monetize AI yet, but to get AI filthy rich, sell AI hardware. If you're not tech ahead, you'll be tech left behind. Get my free newsletter at getkim.com. This year, Dell Technologies' back-to-school event is delivering impressive tech with an inspiring purpose. Learn how Dell is helping Computer Aid, whose work is helping solar community hubs with tech and AI literacy skills to empower remote, displaced, or disconnected communities around the world. Help Dell make a difference and shop AI-ready PCs powered by Snapdragon X Series processors at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals. For details and restrictions, go to Dell.com/deals.
Hey, have you heard about The Current? It's this amazing free tech newsletter that keeps you in the loop about everything AI, making money, and insider tips to get ahead at work and life. Everything is tech now. I can't afford to fall behind, and neither can you. In just 5 minutes a day, that's it. The Current makes it so easy to stay ahead without feeling overwhelmed. Join 500,000 people.
Boy, I'm really tired this morning.
It's free. Don't be left behind. That's getthecurrent.com.
This is normally I'm kind of ready to go on Mondays. You know, I've slept well over the weekend. And I don't know why, but man, I'm just incredibly dragging this morning. So I'm like sucking down coffee. Usually I have my morning kick in the morning, and that gets me going, but just one of those days.
Smart and prepared. The future of America depends on a good night's sleep, and a good night's sleep starts on a Comfort King. For democracy, for your health, and for the
big transmission problem or minor repair. It takes a specialist to know. That's why I recommend the specialist at Jim's National Transmission, downtown at 4th and Weber. When having transmission problems, it's always best to go to a specialist. Most auto repair places will simply replace your transmission. That will cost you 50 to 70% more than if you went to a transmission specialist. Do yourself a favor. Save yourself time and money by taking your vehicle to the team at Jim's Transmission. They know all the ins and outs of automatic transmission diagnosis. Jim's Transmission, the transmission-only specialist, where transmissions are all they do. Find them downtown at 4th and Weber and check out their website. You're going to find coupons, specials there as well, and their phone number. So you can give them a call today, make an appointment. Go to jimsautotrans.com. That's jimsautotrans.com, jimsautotrans.com. Jim's National Transmission, downtown at 4th and Weber. 638, cloudy skies and 72. Hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. This portion brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
Well, stock markets have been plunging. This started on Friday and seems to be continuing this morning. So this story has been trending over the weekend. Stock markets plunging as concern over the U.S. jobs, fueling a lot of fears. Also, New York Times had a story, Wall Street's turbulent week ends with stocks falling. And again, things are not off to a terrific start this morning. That's a very big story. Get you more details on that. Also, this is a piece at National Review, but there are a number of stories that are trending regarding the assassination attempt on Donald Trump and Secret Service holding a news conference on Friday and talking about a radio communication gap. And that's what caused them to miss the warning seconds before the assassin took a shot at Donald, or the attempted assassin took a shot at Donald Trump. So police were warned of the gunman, but Secret Service didn't find out about it in time. And again, this piece at the National Review says that senators had previously received a briefing from Secret Service and FBI officials who revealed that the shooter had been reported as a suspicious person 1 hour before the shooting, and then it just goes on to talk about this. So you had the Secret Service then Friday afternoon that held a news conference, and they said that in that news conference, the acting director of Secret Service said they did not have access to the same radio traffic as their local partners. And he said, it's plainly obvious to me that we didn't have access to certain information. Not anybody's fault. It just so happened that there was a sense of urgency on the radio, he said, and that there might have been radio traffic that we missed. We have to do a better job of that. Also, Nancy Pelosi suggesting that President Biden belongs on Mount Rushmore. This was during an interview on CBS over the weekend. She said, yeah, she should be added to Mount Rushmore. And she was speaking of the president at the time he withdrew from the race. He was in a good place, top of his game. Such a consequential president of the United States, a Mount Rushmore kind of president of the United States. So, again, she's saying a Mount Rushmore kind of president. And then that spun into that. Are you saying that he belongs on Mount Rushmore? And then it just went south from there. Also trending this morning, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch yesterday was on Fox News Sunday, and he said he asked the president to be careful regarding changes to the U.S. Supreme Court. Gorsuch said, I just say be careful, he said. The independent judiciary, what does it mean to you as an American? It means that when you're unpopular, you can get a fair hearing, Gorsuch said. Also, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. telling Roseanne Barr, of all people, in a video that he's the one who dumped a dead bear cub in Central Park, because everybody was wondering where this bear cub come from. It's Central Park, been dumped there. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. explained the whole thing. He said that he admits putting the dead bear cub in an old bicycle then in New York City Central Park. He said, I just pulled over and I picked up the bear, put him in the back of my van because I was going to skin the bear. It was in very good condition. He said, and I was going to put the meat in my refrigerator. And you can do that in New York State. You can get a bear tag for roadkill bear. So some woman had hit the bear. And then apparently his schedule changed, and then he didn't have time for that really incredible plan to skin the bear and butcher it and then put the meat in his freezer. And it turned out he just didn't have time to do all that. And so he just dumped the bear in Central Park. I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating this at all. I mean, this is just okay. Welcome to Bizarro World, RFK Jr. Okay, all right. Other big stories that are trending this morning. The Israeli strikes on Gaza and a fatal stabbing attack in Tel Aviv have been overshadowed by fears of imminent attack from Iran. And there's a story in Axios this morning that Secretary Blinken, Anthony Blinken, is saying that we may see strikes now back at Israel coming from Iran, may see that those as early as today. He warned over the weekend. Senator John Fetterman voicing his concerns over Kamala Harris choosing Governor Josh Shapiro as her running mate. So Fetterman is sought to he is I think Politico cited 3 unidentified people with knowledge of conversations reported that Fetterman's camp has argued that Shapiro's focus on his personal ambition, particularly with regard to his role in Pennsylvania's Board of Pardons, has affected his decisions, and he's concerned about choosing Shapiro then as the running mate. Speaking of Kamala Harris, there are stories out and trending this morning that Kamala Harris came within 20 feet of a pipe bomb that was planted outside of DNC headquarters on January 6th, according to a report from DHS. So she was just feet away from a pipe bomb located outside of the DNC headquarters. Donald Trump rallying supporters in Atlanta, and thousands of fans of Trump's packed the same Atlanta arena. Excuse me. On Saturday, as Vice President Kamala Harris had done 4 days before that. And Trump said that Harris wouldn't arrest criminals while she served as district attorney of San Francisco and attorney general of California. Trump said she wouldn't arrest criminals of the worst kind. She wouldn't arrest murderers. She wouldn't arrest anybody. The state has gone to hell, Trump said. Also, Donald Trump has agreed to an offer from Fox News to debate Kamala Harris on September 4th. Donald Trump has accepted it. Kamala Harris at this point has not. Democratic strategist James Carville is encouraging her to accept it. But Trump is saying the date and for the ABC debate that had been set up for Trump and Joe Biden, he's saying that's an excuse my cough this morning. Saying, well, that deal's off. That was a deal that we had with Joe Biden. That deal is off. So will they wind up debating at all? Remains to be seen. I've seen reports that suggest they may not wind up debating. One of the stories I shared with you late last week, it was trending about the plea deal for those 9/11 conspirators. And Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has overridden that plea deal. And he's revoked the plea deal for the now again, these were the 3 who are serving time for the 9/11 attacks, and that the deal stirred some national outrage, took the death penalty off the table. Well, that has now been revoked by Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin in a terse memo. So he said, effective immediately in the exercise of my authority, I hereby withdraw from the 3 pretrial agreements that you signed. So short and sweet, and withdrawing that. Other stories that are trending this morning. Senator Tim Scott tied the knot. He was married, and he told his wife, you've made me the happiest man alive, he said. So he married his wife Mindy at a church in Mount Pleasant. Friends and family gathered at Seacoast Church to watch the couple tie the knot. And they look great. Have you seen the photos of them? It's really looked sensational. Looked incredibly happy. So, also, a man has been charged with the felony of making a terroristic threat against 2 members of the Kansas City Chiefs organization during a concert on Friday. It's at a Morgan Wallen concert at Arrowhead Stadium on Friday, and he threatened on social media to shoot 2 individuals who were also there. So he was arrested at this concert for threatening a couple of the Chiefs players. The Olympics, of course, are underway, and Scotty Scheffler has won the gold at the Olympics. And he shed tears while taking in the national anthem. Can you imagine that? You're standing there on the podium, you've won the gold, you're hearing the national anthem, and it moves Scotty Scheffler to tears. Pretty incredible story. Tropical storm Debbie strengthening in the Gulf of Mexico. Expected to hit Florida now as a Category 1 hurricane. So this was this story trending yesterday. So Florida preparing for the landfall of the storm. Zac Efron was rushed to the hospital after a swimming pool incident. He was he was actually in Spain. He's in Spain. And Friday night he suffered what a representative called a minor swimming incident. And he was found inside the pool of the villa by 2 workers. Zac Efron is 36 years old now. So some kind of swimming incident. What happened, we don't know yet. Also, Aerosmith is calling it quits after 50 years. Steven Tyler suffered an injury to his vocal cords, and his voice will not make a full recovery. And so the group announced this either Friday or Saturday, I think they announced. Yeah, Friday in a social media post. They said they had made the heartbreaking and difficult but necessary decision to scrap their tour and retire from touring because Steven Tyler's voice will not make a full recovery, is what the words that they used. Also, David Marcus, who is a former president of PayPal, leader of crypto, endorsing Donald Trump and explaining his shift away from the Democratic Party. Marcus said, he described it as a gradual political 180 from where I stood in every previous election. And he cited factors influencing his decision, including his experiences in Washington. And he said, I was shocked to learn that for the most part, Republicans cared more deeply about their constituents, while Democrats, in my experience, cared more about government power and control. And now he's endorsing Donald Trump. And then finally, there's a Chinese national that was arrested after trying to get into Mar-a-Lago. And he claims that he has evidence that China was involved in the assassination attempt against Donald Trump. So he tried to enter Mar-a-Lago, said he had information on the Trump shooting. And he was charged this week with trespassing. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. 6:56. Great to have you along this morning. You're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show. This hour brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
News you can use.
Well, thank you so much, my friend, for letting me join you this morning. I hope you'll join me coming up this morning at 9:30 for the fourth hour that we do exclusively on YouTube. So please join me for that. Very much appreciated. Hit the like button if you would. That's also appreciated. Otherwise, I'll see you again tomorrow. So long until then, and may God bless.